Social Security recipients get 8.7% cost of living increase. Bill Barr calls out Donald Trump's election lies during January 6 testimony. Parkland school killer of 17 sentenced to life in prison without parole. Global recession likely in mid-2023, says JP Morgan head. Council of Europe official concerned over rising anti-Muslim racism. Ibrahimi Mosque again closed to Muslim worshippers. From our Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum. I am Syed. Our top story tonight: Social Security and Supplemental Security income benefits for roughly 70 million Americans will increase 8.7% in 2023, the Social Security Administration announced Wednesday. Social Security benefits will increase by more than $140 per month on average starting in January. The 8.7% cost of living adjustment, or COLA, will begin with benefits payable to more than 65 million Social Security beneficiaries in January. More than 7 million SSI beneficiaries will receive increased payments starting December 30th. The Social Security Act ties the annual COLA for the increase in the Consumer Price Index as determined by the Department of Labor's Bureau of Labor Statistics. A Connecticut jury on Wednesday ordered far-right conspiracy theorist Alex Jones to pay nearly $1 billion, including to relatives of victims of the 2012 Sandy Hook Elementary School massacre. Victims' families endured relentless threats and harassment as the InfoWars owner repeatedly claimed the shooting was a hoax staged by crisis actors. Jones and InfoWars parent company Free Speech Systems were ordered to pay $965 million to family members of 8 Sandy Hook victims and an FBI agent who responded to the scene. 26 people, including 20 elementary school students, were murdered in the December 14, 2012 mass shooting in Newtown, Connecticut. Erica Lafferty, mother of slain Sandy Hook principal Don Lafferty Hodgsprung, was awarded $76 million. She said, "There will be more Alex Jones in this world, but what they have learned here today is that they absolutely will be held accountable." A Florida jury sentenced accused Parkland massacre gunman Nicholas Cruz to life without parole. The jury had to decide whether Cruz will receive the death penalty or life in prison without the possibility of parole. Jurors must be unanimous in making the decision to impose a death sentence per Florida law. Cruz pleaded guilty last year to 17 counts of murder and 17 counts of attempted murder in the February 14, 2018 shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Former Los Angeles City Council President Nury Martinez resigned Wednesday after a leaked conversation involving racist remarks and disparaging comments about colleagues. Martinez is the first of 3 council members who were overheard taking part in the conversation to step down. The council members' comments have ignited public outcry and prompted calls from President Joe Biden and other prominent Democrats. Martinez earlier said she was taking a leave of absence. She only indirectly addressed her remarks in a written statement announcing her departure from the council. The U.S. House Committee on the January 6, 2021 attack on the nation's capital held its 9th hearing Thursday, which could be its last. It showcased new records from the Secret Service revealing Trump was warned of the potential for violence at the Capitol before it erupted. Since its inception 16 months ago, the House panel has received millions of documents and heard testimony from more than 1,000 witnesses. The Justice Department charged more than 880 individuals, and about 280 Capitol rioters have been sentenced thus far. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court on Thursday rejected former President Donald Trump's request to intervene in a Mar-a-Lago secret documents fight with the Justice Department. Prosecutors in Baltimore announced Tuesday that they have dropped all charges against Adnan Syed, the man behind the hit podcast Serial. Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby said the decision to drop the charges was based on new DNA evidence and new information supporting alternative suspects. Mosby said Syed's prosecution for the 1999 murder of his ex-girlfriend Heyman Lee wasn't fair or just 23 years ago. Though she wasn't the prosecutor at the time, Mosby said it is her responsibility to acknowledge and apologize to the family of Heyman Lee and Adnan Syed. Baltimore Circuit Judge Melissa Finn last month threw out Syed's conviction in Lee's murder. Finn said her decision was based on the state failing to share evidence that could have helped Syed's defense at trial. After extensive arguments by the petitioners and the state, a bench of 2 judges gave 2 different verdicts on the matter of Muslim students with hijab in India. One judge upheld a Karnataka High Court order which states the hijab is not essential to Islam. The other said the High Court order was erroneous and wearing the hijab was a matter of choice. The verdict was expected to cap a 10-month-long polarizing debate in India. The debate over the hijab will continue to consume the Indian public and the judiciary. Judges have now requested the Chief Justice of India to recommend it to a larger bench. In the meantime, hundreds and thousands of Indian Muslim girls are unable to attend school. Indian Supreme Court in the past has declared that the mosque is not an essential part of Islam. A story on the Ibrahimi Mosque in Palestine being once again closed to Muslim worshippers comes with more details after the break, so stay tuned and we will be right back after these messages.
A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today.
I am what hunger looks like in America.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
We are Justice for All. Headquartered in the heart of downtown Chicago, Justice for All is a global humanitarian initiative dedicated to raising awareness for human rights concerns impacting vulnerable minority groups. Our diverse team of staff and volunteers, led by Imam Malik Mujahid, work tirelessly to help Justice for All achieve their goals. We promote policies that protect religious freedom, address the root causes of mass displacement, and recognize the plight of refugees and forced migrants. Together, we can continue to stand up for justice. Justice for all.
stop this genocide, we need your help.
Welcome back. Israeli authorities on Wednesday closed the Ibrahimi Mosque in the West Bank city of Hebron to mark the Jewish holiday of Sukkot, a Palestinian official said. Nidal al-Jabari, director of the Waqf department in Hebron, told Anadolu agency Israel shut down the mosque to Muslim worshippers for 2 days due to the holiday. He said the site was open to Israeli settlers to mark the Sukkot, a week-long festival that began Monday. Al-Jabari said the mosque is purely an Islamic site and Jews have no right to it. The Ibrahimi Mosque is in Hebron's Old City area, which is under the Israeli army control. Nearly 400 Israeli settlers live there guarded by 1,500 Israeli soldiers. In 1994, Israeli-American settler Baruch Goldstein murdered 29 Muslims, including 6 children, in the mosque during dawn prayers in the month of Ramadan. A global human rights watchdog on Monday accused Bangladeshi authorities of crackdowns on opposition political parties. Human Rights Watch said opposition groups are reporting an escalation of repression by Bangladesh authorities and attacks by ruling party supporters. Bangladesh is preparing for national elections in 2023. The ruling Awami League party government has denied the charge, saying the report is based on propaganda. The watchdog group called on Bangladeshi authorities to respect the rule of law and protect political opposition supporters' right to freedom of association and peaceful assembly. At least 4 people have been killed and hundreds injured in clashes between police and supporters of the opposition Bangladesh Nationalist Party, as well as between BNP and Awami League supporters, the group said. A Pakistani court Wednesday acquitted Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and his son Hamza Shehbaz in a money laundering case brought by the Federal Investigation Agency. Judge Ejaz Hassan Awan of the Special Court Central in Lahore announced the verdict. The Prime Minister's legal team had earlier requested a 1-day attendance exemption. Suleiman Shehbaz, another son of the Prime Minister who was also a defendant in the case, is currently in London. The court had declared Shehbaz an absconder due to his continuous absence from hearings. The FIA registered a case against them under the Anti-Corruption Act and Anti-Money Laundering Act in November 2020. It stemmed from an investigation into the laundering of 16 billion Pakistani rupees through 28 unnamed bank accounts. 14 other defendants were also named in the case. During the hearing, Sharif's lawyer Amjad Parvez said the FIA brought the case with malice because no money was transferred into Sharif and his son's accounts. Officials from the Council of Europe and the Organization for Security and Cooperation, or OSCE in Europe, on Tuesday agreed to take concrete steps to combat rising anti-Muslim racism in Europe. Daniel Holtgen, COE's Special Representative on Anti-Semitic, Anti-Muslim, and other forms of religious intolerance and hate crimes, met with Turkish Ambassador Ismail Haki Musa. Musa is the new personal representative of the OSCE chairperson in office on combating intolerance and discrimination against Muslims. Holtgen said on Twitter, the two groups have observed a worrying increase in racism against Muslims in Europe, similar to the rise in anti-Semitism. Both groups are committed to stopping that trend, he wrote. Lebanon will begin returning Syrian refugees to their homeland at the end of next week, Lebanese President Michel Aoun said Wednesday. His announcement comes despite rights groups' fears for refugees' safety, Reuters reports. Lebanon hosts the highest number of refugees per capita in the world. According to government estimates, the country's population of more than 6 million includes roughly 1.5 million refugees from neighboring Syria. Yet, well under 1 million refugees are registered with the UNHCR. An official source said only refugees who voluntarily signed up with Lebanon's General Security Agency to be repatriated would be returned. Refugees would not be forced to leave, the official said. Issam Sharafuddin, Lebanon's Minister for Displaced People, in July announced a plan to return some 15,000 refugees to Syria per month. He claimed Syria had become largely safe after more than a decade of war. However, UNHCR maintains conditions in Syria do not allow for the large-scale return of refugees. Coming up after the break is our in-depth analysis segment, so stay tuned and we will be right back after these messages.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Billboards are popping up all over the country with an...
Our neighbors don't realize that Muslims are absolutely opposed to ISIS.
Salam. My name is Abdul Malik Mujahid. I'm an imam in Chicago.
60 shots! No peace! No justice! No peace!
So how do we bring up the energy which can really have an impact on the world? You need to build bridges of understanding among people, and we need to have America moving forward.
That lesson learned have brought the strength of humanity to America, which is the diversity.
Mujahid Talks, only on Muslim Network TV. Faithfully connected.
To stop this genocide, we need your help.
Welcome back. To discuss the recent OPEC decision and U.S.-Saudi relationship, let's go to Edward Ahmed Mitchell. Over to you, Edward.
Thank you, Saamiyah. And now we move to a discussion of global energy supplies and the relationship between the United States and Saudi Arabia. To discuss the latest developments, which could really impact people all around the world, especially in the West, I'd like to welcome on our special guest, Sami Hamdi. Sami is the editor-in-chief of the International Interest. He is an experienced geopolitical risk consultant as well, and we're happy to have him here. Assalamu alaikum, Sami. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. Very good. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. Very good to have you. So first, tell us what happened. What did OPEC decide to do, and how did the United States respond?
As a result of the war in the Ukraine, the gas prices have soared, energy prices have soared. Everybody has felt the pinch of these soaring gas prices at the gas pump. Everybody has seen the prices rise, electricity bills, gas bills, and the like. as a result of the war in Ukraine. And as a result of the volatility in the oil prices, OPEC Plus, of which Russia is a key part, Russia and Saudi Arabia make up more than half of the quota of OPEC. OPEC has been trying to manage the oil prices in a manner that benefits them and in a manner that ensures that their economies, which are heavily reliant on oil, which are heavily reliant on oil prices, are able to navigate the increasing inflation around the world, essentially ensuring that they have the revenues to be able to ride out this global economic crisis, which naturally means that they wish for a higher oil price. For the US, of course, which saw the gas prices rise more than 40% within 8 months of Joe Biden's inauguration, the reality became apparent that for the US, in order to contain Russia, it sought support from OPEC in order to help to contain energy prices. It sought help from OPEC to increase the production, and thereby if OPEC increases production, it brings the oil prices lower, it brings the gas prices lower. However, as the gas prices have risen, we've seen what's been the politicization of the oil price. We've seen that Saudi Arabia, which is essentially the dominant force in OPEC, Saudi Arabia, whose crown prince Joe Biden promised to render a pariah in his election campaign. We've seen that suddenly Saudi Arabia now is beginning to flex and is essentially reluctant to increase production in a manner that favors the US, in a manner that favors Biden. Now, while Saudi Arabia and OPEC are asserting that their oil-dominated economies are reliant on a higher oil price, Biden believes that the reluctance of Saudi Arabia and OPEC to reduce oil prices has something to do with the ambitions of the Saudi Crown Prince in his attempt to really hamper Biden's midterm election chances by raising those gas prices and hoping that the Americans get so angry with Biden that they decide to hand over the Congress to Republicans who are traditionally more favorable towards Mohammed bin Salman, towards the Saudi Crown Prince. We saw he enjoyed a good relationship with Donald Trump. So essentially what's happened is the US has been asking Saudi Arabia to increase production in order to lower oil prices, and Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince has said, absolutely not. I'm not increasing production. I'm not bringing the oil prices down. We have our interest to look after, and it's not my business what Biden wants, despite the fact that Biden went to visit him in July in this high-profile visit that broke away from Biden's assertions that he would not speak to Mohammed bin Salman. The crux of the issue is Biden wants relief from OPEC before the midterm elections in bringing those gas prices down, and Saudi Arabia is essentially saying no. And now Biden is accusing Saudi Arabia of being in cahoots with Russia, while many experts in the industry believe it's not as simple as that.
So, Sami, what impact do you think this could have in the United States-Saudi relationship? What, if anything, do you think the United States might do in response, and how might the Saudis respond? I mean, where is this going? What do you think?
I think it's more accurate to pose the question as where do you think the relation between Biden and Saudi Arabia are headed? I do think that when you look at the reaction of Mike Pompeo, for the former Secretary of State under the Trump administration, and other senior Republicans, we don't see the same anger or the same animosity towards Saudi Arabia's decision or OPEC's decision to cut production and increase oil prices. What we're seeing instead is them denouncing Biden and his handling of Saudi Arabia, in that Biden was careless to alienate Saudi Arabia in the first place. And that speaks volumes as to the sentiment amongst the Republican Party, that they believe that Mohammed bin Salman's cuts come at a very good time for them, that they will be able to ride this momentum in order to win over Congress and essentially render Biden a lame duck, in a twist of irony, in that where Biden promised to render bin Salman a pariah, today bin Salman looks on course to render Biden a lame duck. But the point being here is that this is personal between Biden and Mohammed bin Salman, and it's not about the United States versus Saudi Arabia. This is about bin Salman strong-arming Biden. This is about bin Salman really trying to hit Biden where it hurts. It's about maximizing the opportunity to render Biden a lame duck, and then easing up in the event that the Republicans return to power, on the basis that the Republicans are more favorable towards Saudi Arabia, more favorable towards other authoritarian regimes, and more favorable towards a greater understanding of Mohammed bin Salman's antics that Biden has been keen to highlight and been very loud in highlighting, whereas Trump is famous for once having said that why should he compromise billions of deals over somebody who didn't even have a green card, i.e. referring to Jamal Khashoggi. But the idea being that Mohammed bin Salman believes that this is about Biden, not about relations with the United States. Bin Salman wants good relations with the United States, but believes that's impossible so long as Biden remains in a strong position or remains president of the United States.
So then what do you think President Biden's options are? If President Biden truly believes that's the motivation behind what OPEC did, any indication how the Biden administration might respond, what they may or may not do? Is there anything really they can do? Because they seem to think they are dependent on governments in the Middle East and are not willing to challenge them too much. What do you think about the White House's response, at least while it's in control of President Biden?
I think the issue is that when you look at the ferocity of Joe Biden's response, when you look at the ferocity of the White House response, I do think that it speaks volumes as to how they view their current situation, or how Biden views his current situation in the build-up to the midterm elections. And the Wall Street Journal exclusive leaked that Biden had actually asked the Saudis that, look, if you're going to do these cuts, at least delay them for 1 month. In other words, delay them until such a time in which they do not affect the elections, suggesting that Biden's primary concern was not necessarily about trying to repair ties with bin Salman so much as it was about trying to ensure that he wouldn't suffer for his alienation of Mohammed bin Salman at the midterm elections. So the point here being is that Biden, the ferocity or the anger that we see from White House has more to do with Biden's sense of angst and concern over the midterm elections than anything to do with an institutional reaction from the United States of America as a nation and as an entity in and of itself. As far as the options are concerned, Biden has once again suggested a solution that has been constantly touted over the past 20 years, the idea of implementing stricter antitrust laws. That basically means opening up the way for OPEC countries to be sued in US courts for manipulating oil prices in the market. That's something that would be a major step in the markets. It's a major threat. I don't think Biden will necessarily go through with it, given it will have sweeping ramifications in the market and perhaps unintended consequences. Biden has already canceled bilateral meetings between different delegations between the US and Saudi Arabia, security meetings, economic meetings, and the like. Biden has ordered that US delegations are not to meet with Saudi delegations in some of the high-profile platforms. Recently, he informed the GCC that the US delegation will not meet with the Saudi delegation. So we're already seeing some sort of reaction from Joe Biden. We've also seen pressure on Joe Biden to end arms sales towards Saudi Arabia. But again, this doesn't seem likely, given how heavily reliant the US arms industry is on purchases that are made from the Gulf, lucrative purchases that are made from the Gulf, not just from Saudi Arabia, but also from the UAE. So all of these suggest that Biden's options are very limited, and that will add to the anger of the White House, in that Mohammed bin Salman truly believes that he now has Biden by the tail, and that it all depends now on these midterm elections and whether Biden comes out stronger or whether he comes out as a lame duck that bin Salman hopes for. Bin Salman believes that on all of the issues, he does not see eye to eye with Biden. They don't agree on Yemen. They don't agree on Iran deal. They don't agree on oil. They don't agree on working together in a spirit that negates the issues of human rights as other presidents have done in the past, albeit there is a belief that Biden is using human rights for expediency as opposed to actually believing in it. But the point here being that for Mohammed bin Salman, Biden deserves to be punished. Biden should not be allowed to get away. And now that the tables have turned, now that the Americans are feeling the pinch, now that Biden realizes that the US cannot do away with Saudi Arabia, now that it's becoming abundantly clear that Saudi Arabia is a vital ally and remains so to the United States of America, bin Salman is keen to squeeze Biden in the hope that the Republicans come to power and he can banish the Democrats back to the sidelines.
Well, Sami, this is fascinating, high-stakes stuff that could really have an impact on people around the world, because everyone, for the most part, especially in the West, driving a car and buying gas. So we will see what happens, inshallah. We look forward to having you back to discuss future developments in this international political saga. Thank you so much for having us, Sami. We appreciate it, for coming with us. We appreciate
Thanks very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And we'll send it back to you, Saamiyah.
Thank you so much, Edward. That's all from our Toronto studios tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube or Facebook. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.